Time again. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining us again for another Awake, Aware, Rise session. I am really super excited about this one. I know you've heard me say that before, but I genuinely am. Courageous vulnerability is something that's become very, very personal to me, and I think it's also been something that I've kind of becoming known for. Um, I myself, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I am not shy to put myself out there and to share my story or whatever it is. And so I'm just really excited to see what I can do to learn, about myself, and how I can leverage this skill I think I'm developing. But Dr. Pat, I am so excited for your insights on this topic. Um, and just and see what comes up, see what we can get to reflect on here. So um, Dr. Pat is here with us. I'm sure you've seen him before. He is going to share with us all of his great insights. He has a wonderful presentation. Remember, this is interactive, so definitely utilize the chat. Let us know what's coming up for you as you're experiencing it, and then also make sure to use our Q&A feature as well for specific questions that you'd like to present to our speaker. But without further ado, Dr. Pat, I will leave it over to you, sir. Thank you so much for being here.
Will we be able to do breakout rooms? I forgot to ask you that.
We do not have breakout rooms available, but let me play around and see if I can get anything for you.
Actually, with the number of people, I think we can just have them do what I would have done, breakout and share on the call if they can.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Beautiful. That sounds great. Okay. Over to you.
Good. Well, welcome everybody, whatever time zone you're in. You're seeing a lovely picture behind me of the aspen trees in Colorado right about this time of year. That picture I took last year, but this year that canyon behind me is on fire. And I posted on Facebook this morning that 200,000 acres been burning for 2 months. A lot of the pine beetles are the fuel, but it's still only 50% under control, and the winds keep spreading it. So let's think about the risk reward of the firemen that are fighting. Over 1,000 firemen in Colorado alone. Now we know California is half the state, but this one has ashes falling on my driveway that look like snow. So I don't have to evacuate, but it is something you think about. So let me tell you a little bit about myself for those of you who don't know me. I'm a longtime coach. I was a psychologist previous to that. I've been coaching since 1990. As part of my psychology practice, I started doing team building, team coaching with Hewlett Packard, IBM, Waterpick, Northern Colorado, where I live. And then the coaching movement kind of started with, I was a founding member of the ICF in 1995, watched that grow, built a coaching school called the Institute for Life Coach Training and sold that. And I've written 7 books on coaching. So I've been doing this a long time. And at the end, I'll tell you what I'm up to now with the course that I've got designed. It's kind of my living legacy, but it fits this topic. So let's think about, as was said, courageous vulnerability is a hot topic these days. I think when Brene Brown kind of came out with her TED Talk and her books, and then other people, and I'm glad to see it in the coaching world, it's showing up for those of you who are ICF coaches or working toward that certification. The new competencies that will be utilized in 2021 talk about the emotions of the coach and the client 9 times. The word emotions is mentioned 9 times. And that's a big break from when we used to avoid it. Like, there was this bifurcation, false bifurcation of, oh, if your client cried or, got overly emotional, maybe they needed to see a therapist. And that's just not true. Anybody who's excited about what they're making a change in their life, whether by choice or not, is going to have some emotions tied to it. So let's take a look at some of the concepts with this, and please post and chat any questions you have. So this is a slide I've always liked. There's an old-fashioned camera there, but life is like a camera. So if you focus on what's important and capture the good times and develop from the negatives, and if things don't work out, then take another shot. That's the philosophy. It's we can't avoid risk. We can't avoid chance. We can avoid stupid risk. You know, I have skydived and I have paraglided, but I didn't do it without the equipment. I wouldn't do that. So, what things have you risked on? Just be thinking about that, because we're going to have some discussion about that, that paid off for you, or maybe you might say you failed, but I don't think failure is a word that we want to use. You get results. So there are no failures, only results. And you think about that usually in the famous quote from Edison, whether it's 100% accurate or not. Somebody asked him, what was it like trying to invent the light bulb over hundreds and hundreds of times? And he said, oh, those weren't failures. Those were only results. And that's true. You know, you go on to the next one. That's true of anything we do in life. There are, however, concepts where you can make a statement, it is what it is. Well, that may be true eventually, but until you get to the point of experiencing what is, what's happened, what change has occurred in your life, you have to decide or just experience, was it a chosen change or an unchosen change? Let's talk about that in a minute. So a chosen change would be choosing to quit your job and take another one, still very stressful. Choosing to get married could be exciting, still very stressful. Choosing to move, choosing to buy a different house, choosing to have children, you know, all of those are chosen change that comes still with some risk reward. Then there's unchosen change, getting fired from your job, getting a medical diagnosis that's a little scary, getting divorced, having to move, dealing with COVID-19. That's the unchosen change. But eventually, every experience will become a good experience, eventually. So we have to get through that period of what was true, what's now true, and what will be the new experience. So we're always rolling with the punches, to use a metaphor of getting beat a little bit. And you need support for that to happen. So emotional and courageous vulnerability mean you don't do it alone. You can be vulnerable, like was said, wear a heart on my sleeve. And I've always been an emotional sharer. I think that's why I'm confident and so involved with this topic in the books I write and the webinars I do, because emotions are just energy in motion, emotion. And if they don't get expressed, that energy gets trapped within us and it needs to come out somehow. So you need to have a trusted other, a trusted listener, someone that you can really pay attention to with that. So stepping out of your comfort zone, we use that word a lot, don't we? What does that mean? What's our comfort zone? Well, for some people, it could be the bubble you stay in and you don't reach far out of it. I'm safe here. I'm not going to take a risk. But if you don't take a risk in things that you want to accomplish in your life, you'll be stuck in mediocrity. We can live a life stuck in mediocrity, but I think the reason many of us are in coaching or in personal development work is because we want to live beyond mediocrity. Don't settle. Everyone has a unique life purpose. And if you haven't discovered it yet, you're moving toward it. And to do that, you have to step out of your comfort zone. Change is a process, not an event. Now, I use some of these quotes as kind of stimulating discussion, and hopefully it'll make you all think of some comments that you want to ask or questions in a moment. And by the way, we have 90 minutes set aside for this. We may not take that long, but I'm certainly willing to hang around if we have Q&A at the end and people can unmute themselves and be participatory in this. So it won't take me long to get through the content. Making hard choices can actually be liberating because you can then define who you truly are, and it demonstrates the power that we all have to shape our lives. We do have that power. We can do what we can do, and usually we need to do it with the help of others, other people, other tools and techniques, but we have to be active in the process. Rather than let life happen to us, we're trying our best to have us happen to life. Although I had a good friend, one of my teachers at the Institute for Life Coach Training, Jim Vocolo, passed away a few years ago. And when I was teaching the classes in the early days, I was teaching a class on life purpose and how I think we all have a purpose. And you sometimes say, what do I want for life? what are the things I'm moving towards? What is it I want to have my life experience? And he said, well, Pat, what if it's the other way around? What does life want for you? And I always thought that was a good way to look at it. It's like we're stepping into a process of purpose that we may not know, but we kind of recognize when we're in that zone, when we're in that purpose zone. So we choose courage over comfort by engaging the new opportunities to learn and grow rather than passively resigning to the circumstances. That's from Susan David's book, Emotional Agility, another really good book. Susan's a colleague of mine at the Institute of Coaching at Harvard, and she became quite famous, and this book sold quite well because she had a TED Talk that I think is the most viewed TED Talk or second most viewed TED Talk ever, millions of views. If you haven't seen it, just Google TED Talk Susan David. It's about courageous vulnerability. But think of that statement. If we choose courage over comfort, I have said, I may have read this somewhere, maybe a quote to somebody else, but courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is fear moving. So we don't have to wait till we're not fearful to be courageous. We actually are we feel fear and we do it anyway. Courage is fear moving. So we admit the possibility that, yeah, we have a little nervous trepidation, but do it anyway. I used to be in community theater and I would learn the part and rehearse for 6 weeks. And then that opening night, you're out there and you're a little nervous, but also excited. You can feel both emotions at the same time. And then comes that part where, I forgot my line, or my co-star forgot her line or whatever. And you just kind of make it up. But that's part of the fun of live theater. For some people, that would scare the bejesus out of them. The biggest fear in the world is public speaking for anybody, that biggest paranoia. So I was going to do this in a breakout, but let's just do it here. We've only got about 19 participants. And so you can certainly write in chat or you can speak up, but share one experience of chosen change in your life and one experience of unchosen change and how you eventually learned from each. If somebody can write or just, I guess, they can unmute themselves. Is that right?
They won't be able to unmute themselves. I can nominate a couple people to panelists, so we can bring individuals up if they want to raise their hand.
Yeah, okay.
We can definitely do that.
So you can monitor that. If somebody wants to speak, raise your hand. Either, you can't see the video, so down below there's a place where you can do that, or just say in chat.
We got a comment coming in through a Q&A. Dawn shares with us, organization takeover. I imagine that's an unchosen change, perhaps.
Oh, a takeover of an organization, right? A merger or something like that.
Acquisition, yeah. Been there. I'm sure this one, and we've got busy fingers between what the change was and then what they learned from it. So here we go. Unchosen change. Suggesting to the terminal diagnosis of a family member. Oh my gosh, I am sorry. Chosen change was moving to a new city for better career prospects.
Right. So I'm interested in if anybody can share. So how did that become a growth experience for you? How did you adjust to it, learn from it, get through it?
Mark, are you interested in becoming a panelist? Otherwise, feel free to leverage the chat if you prefer that. In the meantime, we've got chosen change, moving countries, another continent, another chosen change, left a comfortable corporate job as a high performer to take on a temp consulting job in a third world country. That is brave. All right, Mark's going to elaborate in the chat for us. Thank you so much, Mark. Let me see, what else do we have here? Vinitha, hello. Chosen change, moving out of a difficult relationship and starting a career again. Yes, yeah. Relatable. Unchosen, had to move companies as part of an M&A.
If somebody could share like an unchosen change that became a great experience? Like you're so glad the unchosen change occurred? Because I would say to you, most of the best experiences in my life are ones I didn't choose. They were side trips from choices I made and things that came up, experiences happened that I wouldn't have thought of. So somebody
Vanessa
can
dropped
say the
something in.
outcome.
Becoming a mother, Vanessa, was that an unchosen? I'm curious. Sometimes you have surprises, Dr. Pat. Sometimes these things weren't planned.
Sometimes
There we
what?
go. It was a surprise.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
sometimes these things aren't planned.
Yeah.
Gosh,
Well,
I'm trying to,
maybe for the baby it was a chosen change. We don't know.
well, while everybody's typing away, I'll share with you, Dr. Pat, the thing that had come up when you had asked your question, as far as an unchosen change. So before I had found my calling, that the word I was looking for was coach, that aligned with everything. I was in a corporate job. I was making really great money. It was sucking the life out of me through a prickly straw. I averaged like 72-hour work weeks. And there was an event that had taken place that then caused a shift, I would just say. And where I thought I was going to be retiring, and I'd hitched my wagon to their star or whatever the case was. Um, that bubble burst. And initially I was upset. I was a little embarrassed. There was a lot that had come up, and I was fearful because I didn't have a plan B. I didn't know who I was meant to be yet.
Right.
And so at that time, and even over the next year after that had taken place, it was a roller coaster. It was absolutely a roller coaster between, old patterns of self-doubt and judgment and criticism coming up, picking myself apart for not doing this or that, or I coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yeah.
Having a family that's looking at me, with expectations, having my other family members that are saying, what are you doing with yourself? Then come to them and saying, hey, I think I'm a coach, and I think I'm going to go to school for this, and I think this, and I think that, and I believe this about myself, and I'm doubling down on myself, and I'm jumping off the cliff right now. I hope you guys support me. And I didn't get all the support that I was hoping for. So, you know, hindsight, had that all not had taken place, I'd probably still be doing a job that didn't bring me joy and fulfillment. I was scraping by for the fulfilling pieces to keep my battery above E.
Yeah.
Had that not had happened, like, would I have chosen today? I can say I would choose that year of pain because I'm on the other side of it, right? But in that moment, if somebody would have just reached their hand out and said, hey, you can tag out now, you don't have to do this anymore, let me go make it easy, here's your easy button, I probably would have pushed that button. There were a couple times I would have. So
Yeah.
then I didn't find my gratitude then. I found my fear. But now I would say absolutely it's something I'm profoundly grateful for. I found who I was on the other side of that.
Yeah, and you give a good example that other people are mentioning similar in chat is you may know that you need to get out of a certain situation, a job, a marriage, a circumstance, or whatever. And so you make a calculated risk, and maybe that one doesn't work, but it leads to what does. It's a stepping stone. There's a great book that I recommend to all coaches, and it helped me get started in my coaching 30 years ago, still relevant today. And the book is Transitions by William Bridges. Which is a great name for a guy that wrote a book on transitions, right? Bridges. It's a little book, but it talks about the what was, what is, and what will be. And that's any transition that a company is in, that a person is in, that a relationship is in, there's a transition. And when it goes back to that unchosen change eventually has to become chosen. It is what it is. Now I have to choose what has happened.
Mm-hmm.
A personal example for me, since we're talking about courageous vulnerability, is about 3 years ago next month, I moved back from Florida to Colorado. I say I escaped Florida. I was trapped there for a while. And I moved back to where I've spent most of my life. And to be near my oldest child and grandkids. And 3 weeks after I moved back, my wife passed away suddenly and shockingly. So I've been living almost 3 years alone, making a distinction between lonely and aloneness. I've got my wonderful dog here by my feet. He's my buddy. But I'm now seeing that with the coronavirus, yes, I've always worked virtually, but now every once in a while I feel like I have a lonavirus. Now I'm not suffering. I have lots of friends. I get lots of involvement, but not having that partner in life is something I'll probably look for again in the future. But I'm in that transition. I'm in that waiting period or nesting period. I'm learning a lot about myself, doing different things. I'm not, I'm 70 years old now. I'm not retiring. I'm repurposing. And part of what I'm going to mention in this, or refiring, as somebody told me, I'm refiring. I don't coach that much anymore. I volunteer with prisoners that I train. So I volunteer coaching prisoners when they get out. I coach Navy SEALs who are coming back from career for career coaching, and it's just kind of my give back. And then I teach a few classes here and there. All right, so let's move on. People can think about their experiences that they want to share.
Did you want me to review some of the great chat comments?
Yeah.
We've got some good stuff here. So Claire shared with us suffering burnout. It prompted her to reevaluate how she's living, which I think I can so relate to it. When I was sharing just there, 72-hour work week, I had a lot of burnout. I absolutely had a lot of burnout. Mark expanded for us. He said adjusting to the family member involved reordering priorities, in particular, putting in quality time as a higher priority, observing the decline of a family member and the grace with which they handled it became a catalyst for huge change in myself. Oh my gosh, I so get that. I've had an experience like that. Thank you so much for sharing, Mark. Regal shares with us, I choose to live by my own standards and beliefs. My unchosen change was truly realizing that I was the black sheep of the family. I went a year and a half of therapy, best thing that ever happened to me, which absolutely therapy is a beautiful thing. And yes, Ray, chosen change, becoming a member of a professional sports team. Interesting. Unchosen change, getting dropped from a professional sports. Sorry, I don't need to laugh. I didn't expect it. I'm reading it live. Getting dropped from a professional sports team. The unchosen change led to a much better life, career, and relationships. That's awesome. Manish, quitting a job and deciding to go freelance and independent without a clear plan and onset. I hear that. I discovered my strengths and didn't know existed within me, as well as found new perspectives on life. That was a chosen change.
Yeah.
I love that.
Great.
And then let's see, just two more, I think. Benita shared, I never wanted to be in HR or to be a coach, but it was destined, yes. Oh, where am I? Designed for me to go into HR, and that was an unchosen change, but discovered so much of myself through it. And today I find joy in what I do and am grateful. What comes to mind with unchosen and chosen change is that sometimes we need to be forced. Interesting. We need to be forced to summon courage in a given situation. Absolutely. We may never have been, we may never chose, where am I? We may have never chose to bring that upon ourselves, but being forced into it due to the unchosen nature prompts us to rise. And then let's see, start evaluating change rather than be in the moment and take the courage to shift through it. And just, again, we never know what's in store. So regardless, Claire shares, regardless of chosen and unchosen change, each can be equally scary and exciting. I think that's a perfect note to segue into the next portion.
Claire raised her hand, I see.
Oh, did she? Where is Miss Claire? Let me see. Oh, I think she raised it and put it down.
Oh, she said we covered it. Okay, got it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that participation. So a little thing about taking risks. You've heard the term calculated risk. So if you've done something adventuresome in your life, like skydive or um, paraglide or scuba dive 100 feet, like some of the things I've done a few times. Why? Well, because it somehow exhilarates me. It somehow pushes my excitement button. I'm not an adrenaline junkie, but it's like an ability to get outside my comfort zone. And then that relates to how I live my life, calculated risks. So if you don't take risks and you want to achieve something, you'll never achieve it. It doesn't come accidentally. Um, the benefits of taking risks are it opens us to new challenges and opportunities. Someone said in the chat that even chosen change or unchosen change still come with trepidation and nervousness and fear. So even chosen change can do that. But you push yourself to learn a new skill, such as public speaking or learning some new craft, and it may come in handy as a business owner or as something that just fills your joie de vivre. Taking risk empowers you to establish new limits in your mind. You learn that you can do more than you think. They can result, of course, in positive outcome. When not every life step can be carefully planned, we in coaching coach people to have a plan and steps toward what they're committing to, but we still don't know if that's going to get them where they want. They're just efforts along the path, and eventually we make adjustments. It's why I said earlier that I think some of the best experiences I can recall in life were actually side trips that I took along a path. So it's like if you're going to go on a trip, do you call AAA and get the highways and the same hotels with the ugly art and the basic decor, or do you take county roads and veer off and just experience the environment differently than if you'd gone the fastest, most concrete route? That's my experience. Um, Once you become accustomed to taking risks, you break free from the average way of living and thinking. You're not a risk taker that's dangerous, but you're willing to take chances. And in coaching, I often have my clients go experiment with this. I mean, don't make a change overnight. Don't quit your day job tomorrow and go do this unless you have 6 months of income in the bank at least. But experiment with it. What would it be like? Interview somebody that does what you're thinking of doing or lives how you're thinking of living. If you say, I want to go live in a third world country for a while, or I want to go move to Europe from the United States, or whatever it might be, you can find compatriots that have done that and calculate your risk a little bit. So it does take blind trust eventually because we don't know the future. So that's one of the points of this. But boy, what are the rewards? So as I said here, I'm sorry, I went backwards. Life mystery versus mastery. We can try to master life and master this. I mean, I'm a master certified coach, but I'm not always masterful. There's a level of mastery that we can achieve in a certain way of being as a man, as a woman, as a husband, as a wife, as a coach, as a therapist, as a grandpa, whatever it is. But there's still a mystery to what's next. There's still a mystery to life that will come with experiences that we don't yet know. Challenges are what make life interesting, and overcoming them is what makes life meaningful. I think people have really stated that quite well in the chat. So there's the thing called the hero's journey. And if you're familiar with the Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell, I had the privilege in my master's degree program in 74 and 75 of having Joseph Campbell come and be a teacher for a week at the university I was at, because he talked about my favorite psychologist, Carl Jung, who I always had to read other people to understand what Carl Jung was saying. His writing was so erudite that I said, I think I get it, but let me have somebody else tell me what he meant. And Joseph Campbell talked a lot about that in symbolism and the hero's journey that we all go through, maybe in the longevity of life, that the hero, um, like the Greek who, Odysseus, who left and to go on his journey and fight the Peloponnesian War for so many years, and meanwhile left his son Telemachus in the hands of Mentor. So mentor is where the word mentoring came from, because Mentor was there to teach Telemachus while Odysseus was gone. So he went through a hero's journey of facing challenges, overcoming them, maybe having a few wounds and hurts and bumps and bruises, but eventually we triumph over all the conflict. So look that up if you want to learn more about it, but it's a metaphor for the long life. And I think we coaches have to have a life well lived. We can't, most of us aren't 20 something. If you are, then you're going to be coaching people younger than you or about the same age, because that's the life experience you know. I think that the fact that we've lived a life well lived means that we've got some experience, not to give answers to our clients, but to understand the human foibles that come up, the risks and everything. One of my favorite little books that I've had for probably 50 years at least is Notes to Myself by Hugh Prather. I need to move these pictures out of the way here. If you can see that quote, I can almost quote this by heart, but I love it. Today never hands me the same thing twice. And I believe that for most everyone else, life is also a mixture of unsolved problems, ambiguous victories, and vague defeats, with very few moments of clear peace. My struggle with today is worthwhile, but it is a struggle nonetheless, and one I will never finish. Now, that may sound pessimistic to some, but I think it's more realistic. And you could change the word struggle to challenge, experience maybe, but we're always running into what's next. What do we learn? There will be bumps and bruises, metaphorically, sometimes exactly. So I think that that's a quote that has meant a lot to me. And then there's another one that I have later on that I really live my life by. So now let's have some more sharing here. Maybe this is similar to what you did from both, but I'd like you to share a time in your life where you took a risk and it did not get the results you wanted. And what did you learn from that? What happened next?
And while our friends are typing and reflecting on that question, Vanitha presented a question, a couple of things here. So
Okay.
one thing was calculated risks. Are they based on statistics or modeling in the mind? Really interesting thought. And then the other, how can conforming to a role, norm, culture impact your risk-taking ability? What would be enabled by a liberating feeling when you take risks?
Yeah, well, let me respond to that first one. I think calculated risk in life, no, they're not based on statistics. Now, something you might be able to have statistics about something, but this is just like personal decisions about stepping into a new opportunity. There's nowhere you can go to find statistics about that. If you're talking about investing in the stock market, yeah, there's some statistics and you still might lose. So I think it's more modeling in the mind. How comfortable are you with stepping on the path toward this new adventure without doing something crazy, like quitting your job with no money in the bank, or moving to another country without looking into what it might take? Fill in the blank. It could be anything. Sometimes people make decisions too quickly, and I know we've all probably had that experience of, well, I wish I had, with hindsight, I wish I'd done this instead. Now, the next question that Vanitha asked is interesting. How can conforming to a role or a culture impact your risk-taking ability? What would enable a liberating feeling when you take a risk? I have to think about that. I wonder if other people have comments on that, about conforming to a new role or culture. How would that impact? And maybe you have something specific in mind, uh, moving to a culture very different than yours. What would that be like? And then Ray asked, I see here, one of the most thrilling things in life is moving from can't do to can do. Without adversity, life would lack meaning. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
So any experiences people have where they took a risk and it did not get the results they wanted, and what you learned from that?
Ooh, here's some good ones. We've got Dawn shared with us. I stood up to prejudice and bias in a former organization, which curtailed my career. Ooh,
And then what, Don? Oh, there, but reinforced what I believed it was right. Good for you. Good for you.
yes.
And then what happened next? What career did that lead to after it curtailed the other one?
Ooh, got some good stuff coming.
Hmm. So Vanitha says, all I learned was it only gives you an opportunity to forgive yourself and move forward. Yeah. I mean, stand up, get going, see what's next. Oh, there's one that was further up. Can you read the one? I can read
Yep.
Mark. Yeah. Mark's,
Vanessa or
no,
Mark?
I'm going to read Mark. Taking a risk that paid off, moving to a new city for a better career prospect. I realized on the other side that all success is transitory anyway. Yeah, I'm laughing, not because it's funny, but because it's true. Taking a risk that didn't give what I wanted became the impetus for chosen change afterwards. I realized that I need to be open to more outcomes than just the ideal one, and to be that 70 to 80% of what I wanted via another avenue is still great. Yes. Well said.
Oh, and Dawn shifted into a career as a coach, of course.
Good. Get some life experiences and help with diversity then, coaching. That's awesome. Here, Mikhail says, having moved and lived in 3 different continents, I would say that it takes investment to learn the language, culture, nuances. Oh yeah, it takes time and careful observation, but it pays off big time. That's really part of the fun. I mean, I've only lived, I lived in French Canada for a summer, and that was an experience at age 21. I've never really lived in another country, but I visited so many that it was just thrilling to me to just learn people are people, but I can just be compassionately curious, by the way, which is a big skill from coaching. You can be curious anywhere you go, and you probably won't make a cultural faux pas if you're curious, or if you're open to understanding that what the word you thought meant didn't mean that. I've got some embarrassing stories about that. But I tried, you know. So yeah, people leaving jobs. Oh boy. Toiled for 5 years, made a decent life. Okay. Yeah, great. Okay, so let me move on a little bit here. You can continue to post things. If you're familiar with the book, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, I like it. It's one of those nice, simple books that's got truth. I reread it from time to time. He talks about be impeccable with your word. And impeccable in translation means sacred. So it's like tell the truth, be impeccable with your words. At least tell the truth to yourself, and then don't take anything personally. Oh, that's a hard one. But in today's climate around the world, both in politics and I think in social injustice and other things, we forget that opinions are not facts, and things said about us aren't necessarily true. We don't have to buy it. So don't take it personally and become hooked by that. And then don't make assumptions. You know, how often do we get in conversation with somebody and we already think we know what they're going to say, or we know what they are or something, and that's what gets in the way of heartfelt, courageous conversation. Don't make assumptions. That's really true in coaching, because we stay in a non-judgmental stance. We stay curious, and hopefully we're going to be surprised and have the person be surprised by the questions we might ask or the space that we give for that new conversation. And then always do your best. Well, underscore always. Do I always do my best? No, but I can come back to reminding myself to do my best. And maybe what I did do was my best, but it can be better. So I think, that's a nice little book. You don't have to buy the book. You can go online and read more about these if you want to, but it's a tiny book. It's one of those pull out every once in a while, open a page, see what you learn. These are a few quotes. I love quotes, and I send out weekly quotes in some of my blogs and some other things, but I love this. This is like lessons from nature. I used to write a blog called Monday Morning Musings, and I would look out my window and just see what I can learn from nature, or walking on the trail. I live by a river, walking on that trail, or hiking in the mountains. So some of these are relevant to that. We cannot change the direction of the winds, but we can adjust our sails. Now, I'm not a sailor, but I've been on boats, both in the ocean and on big lakes. That is so true. It's also just like an airplane. An airplane is never on the same path. They're always making adjustments constantly. And a sailboat's the same way. You're going to a destination, but you might have to veer over here, veer over there, or avoid storms or uh, other obstacles, or just, you got off course somehow. So that applies to our life too. We have to adjust our sails to the winds that come up. You'll never experience new oceans if you're afraid to leave the shore. That speaks right to the heart of this talk. If you don't leave your comfort zone, the shore, then you'll never experience the vast opportunities that might lie ahead. Even if you don't know what they are, you're going to calculate where you think you're going and what you want to do, but it may lead as a stepping stone to something else. At least you left what was not fulfilling. And then Heraclitus says you cannot step in the same river twice. That's so true. I mean, if we're in the flow of life and we're thinking of getting in the new flow, well, the river's flowing. You can't step in the same river twice. So every experience is a new experience. This is another one out of Notes to Myself by Hugh Prather. Embrace imperfection is what I've titled it. Perfectionism is slow death. If everything were to turn out just like I want it to, or just like I would plan for it to, then I would never experience anything new. My life would be an endless repetition of stale successes. When I make a mistake, I experience something unexpected. I love that because that's life. There is no perfect. If we try to become perfect, we're fooling ourselves. There's just, it's just you'll waste away trying to. No, I want it to be perfect before I can do it. No, it won't be perfect. It'll be what it is, and you'll be who you are. Now, there's another one I think is relevant here. There was a woman that wrote a blog years ago, Bronnie Ware. I think she was Australian or New Zealand, and she wrote this blog as a hospice nurse, and she wrote on lessons from the dying, and it became quite popular, and she wrote a book and did quite well with it. But it's one of those great lessons from the dying passed on to the living. And I use the metaphor. My latest book is called Getting Naked on Emotional Transparency, or I subtitle it Getting Naked with Your Clothes On. In courageous conversations that we can have in coaching and with our trusted others in life, you can get naked with true wants and desires, struggles and challenges. So let's see what the lessons from the dying are, the top 5 regrets of the dying. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Think of that. This is what somebody near death is saying. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Well, wouldn't it be great if we did that now before we got a health concern that was going to have us be near death? They also said, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I used to say nobody ever lay on their deathbed saying, I wish I'd worked harder. Nobody. So we have to pay attention to the fun parts of life in addition to work. We're human beings, not human doings. And that's another thing, by the way, in the new competencies of the ICF that I think are brilliant. We talk about the beingness of the client and the beingness of the coach. People come because they want to do something different or have something different, but we need to get to the being. Who are you? Who do you need to become to have this occur for you, to create this life you want? And what's true about you now that may be holding you back? What's something you haven't shared with other people that you could share with me? So that relates indirectly to I wish I hadn't worked so hard. And then it relates directly to this one. I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. How would it be to lie on your deathbed and know that you never told your sons you loved them, or that you never experienced the true expression of things that 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 meant something to you, maybe your hurts but also your joys. um, Expressing feelings makes us more vulnerable, yes, but it also makes us more human and more fulfilled and more complete. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. Well, it doesn't mean Facebook friends. This means real friends. So one of the things I noticed when COVID started, and I've been coaching by phone and not by Zoom so much, but teaching by Zoom for years. And one of the things I noticed, even in my own life, of I picked up the phone and called friends that I hadn't in a long time. How you doing? How you coping with it? My family would have Sunday afternoon meetings on Zoom, and they live all over the world. I got a brother in Maui and a cousin in Thailand, and I got California and um, um, Oregon, um, Africa. I mean, our family spread out all over the place. So we'd have Zoom calls. It was great. We talked more than we had in the last 10 years. So staying in touch with your friends, do it now. Don't wait till you're on the dying bed here. And I wish that I had let myself be happier. Now, there's a great phrase in that. I wish I had let myself be happier. I'd love you to think about that, and maybe somebody can post what that means to them. But why don't some people let themselves be happier? What prevents being happy, being in the right now, the present? We're meant to be happy. We're not meant to be unhappy. Ray says, I wish I'd eaten more ice cream. Yeah, okay. Well, everything in moderation, Socrates said. So yeah, so some of the chat, there seems to be such hesitance to accept the present moment as enough. Yeah, it's enough for now, Mark. Isn't that true? It's like, if we can't ever enjoy the present and we're always going for more or different or more, then we're not really being here now, as Baba Ram Dass said in his book, formerly Richard Alpert. Be here now. Now, we can't be here now all the time, but we need to come back to the point of centering. I wrote a blog, and it's also a chapter in my book about the myth of work-life balance. That I learned years ago, I went to a Cirque du Soleil performance in Denver that they did on horseback. So it was in a smaller circus tent, only held maybe 2,500 people, and they would be doing all their acrobatics and craziness and bouncing off things and balancing things. And at intermission, I went out when, of course, they sell programs and T-shirts and this and that. And I commented to one of the clownish people. I said, I am just so amazed at the balance you guys have. I just can't believe how you achieve. He goes, obviously, monsieur, I mean, he was French Canadian, you aren't paying attention. I said, what do you mean? He said, we're in constant motion. Balance is momentary. Now think of that in your life. Think of that with your coaching clients or your friends. Balance is a place we come back to. It's a momentary experience. We're never 100% balanced. Can you stand on a teeter-totter at the park and not keep adjusting right leg, left leg? It's a moment that we come back to. I call it a place of center. So for me to achieve balance in my life and feel like I've got that place, I do a morning meditation or a morning walk or both. And sometimes in the evening, a similar one with watching some inspirational video or something before I go to bed. So those are my points of center. I can come back to my heart, to my center, my center chakra. So this is inspired and adapted from Dr. Seuss, one of the brilliant psychologists who wrote all those great books. Life's too short to wake up with regret. So love the people who treat you well, forget the ones who don't. Believe that everything happens for a reason. You don't need to know the reason right away. If you get a chance, take it. If it changes your life, let it. No one ever said it would be easy, but the promise is that it would be worth it. That is so true. That one is on a little sheet of paper on the side of my file cabinet. So every once in a while, oh yeah, that's a good mantra. So I'm going to just stop with the next two slides, and we'll open it up for discussion and content that you have to share. But this is my new book. It's also for those of you that live overseas or outside America where Amazon shipping would be expensive. It's also an audio and in ebook, so you can look for that on Amazon with my other books. You see there in bold, I've got a new program based on the book called Conscious Living Mastery. It just got approved for 38 ICF CEUs. So it's all you need to renew every 3 years, because you'll do the 3 hours of the ethics test online. But you can take a look right now and download module free of 12 modules for free if you want to, and see if you want to take it for a test spin. It's really my living legacy, my 4 decades of being a coach, and before that, a psychologist. It's about getting naked. So that's the metaphor within each class, is the emotional transparency and the emotional vulnerability. What do you need as a coach or a helping professional need to smooth out in your own life? Because we all hide stuff, or we all have stuff in our shadow. What would help you become more present and more authentic? And then you can use the material with your clients if you want. So take a look at that. And then my website is drpatwilliams.com. There's blogs you can sign up for. You can also see more information about what I've done. And if you want to know somebody who wants me to do a webinar or a talk or whatever, that's how you get a hold of me. So let's end with that. I'm going to stop the share. Now you can see me among the aspen trees again. So
Wonderful.
some of the things, but what do you see there that you could share?
Well, Vanessa had a comment. Where was it? Just before. She was sharing an experience that I thought was really interesting. I was witnessing winds during a cyclone season within the comfort of my home. I happened to see the birds flying, trying to fly against the winds and looking for shelter, and many of them failed to reach the shelter. It made me realize 3 things. 1, comfort sometimes make you give the illusion of protection.
Yes.
Which is really, really profound.
That is, yeah.
Innate nature of beings are to first breathe and live, and then choose how you want to be. And then the
Beautiful.
third point is grateful that I have been granted another moment to breathe, which that's something that I too find like peace in.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I don't know the technical term. I know they use it in like therapeutic interventions, where it's like, okay, when you need to like calm yourself in perhaps anxious moments or whatever it is, like look around, 5 things you can touch, you can smell, you can hear, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think in that regard that I will use that, where it's like, and I'm still breathing. And so I'm already, you know what I mean? Like I'm already on the right foot because I can be on a foot right now.
Yeah, let me make a couple of comments to that, because I used to talk, there's a term called psychological safety, or we could call it risk inoculation. If you do things to treat yourself well, extreme self-care, have some techniques of mindfulness, meditation, reverence of the world, places to come back to, no matter what's happening out of our control, we can only control what's right here. It's funny, I greet people say now, how are you? And I say, well, I woke up alive again today. So that's my statement now. I'm in good health, and I don't plan to be, I looked at my birth certificate. It doesn't have an expiration date, so I can't tell you what's happening. But it's that risk inoculation. Can we inoculate ourselves against the fear of taking risks? And what will that do? We have to fill ourselves up with trust and others that we can collaborate with. Another concept is what we're seeing a lot in coaching today, and you've had webinars on it here, the neuropsychology of coaching. that we know that as emotional beings, we sometimes will let our amygdala hijack us and we'll go off, our lizard brain will take over and we'll just react. Well, okay. But then you can back up and say, whoa, let me come back to my frontal cortex and think and then go to my heart. See, what does my heart say? I'm doing that a lot today. What's the wisdom of the heart? Because there's 40,000 neurites in the heart that communicate with the brain. If you haven't looked at this research, it's from the Heart Math Institute and also Greg Braden's work. You can Google The Little Brain in the Heart, Greg Braden, Gregg Braden. It's in one of his many books, but it's a technique I use a lot because the heart can give you that quick message of responding to life rather than reacting. So I just wanted to comment on that.
Interesting. Let's see, what else did we have? I feel like we had a lot of great comments in here.
By the way, that's why Brene Brown and others call it heartfelt communication.
Is it? Gosh, I love Brene Brown. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
She's absolutely
Brilliant.
Let's see. I think you have to work hard in life, experience a hardship, and allow myself to be happy. Maybe generational. Interesting, John. I kind of want to know more about what your thought was there.
Yeah.
The ability to let go and be present. Funny thing is, it's all relative. Sometimes you just have to giggle,
Yeah,
not the power of now. I love that audio.
We don't mean it's all your relatives. We just mean it's relative. Sorry, I was just a little joke there. Yeah. I love what Ray's saying here. The pandemic has aided me in at least 3 discoveries. I've learned more about who I am, who I want to be. I've learned more about what my deepest values are, and it has helped me express more of what I truly believe. Wow, that will lead to a great life. Those 3 things are steps for living that we could all model by. I see that we still have 17 people here. I appreciate that. So you're hanging around in thought and in comments. If you go back to the whole concept of emotional, courageous vulnerability, being vulnerable is scary. I mean, if you're vulnerable in, like with the fires that are approaching over, 15 miles from my home, if I lived in those homes that are nearby, or was the fireman fighting the fires, I'd feel, yes, I'm trained, but there's vulnerability. Courageous vulnerability is to know that the courage that we talked about earlier is just fear moving. And in fact, the word courage from the French cœur comes from heart. The word for heart in French is cœur. So courage means it comes from the heart, not from our head, which we can get into false beliefs and assumptions and those taking it personally that came from the 4 Truths by Don Miguel Ruiz. So all these words that I'm sharing today and quotes and everything are to lead to an internalizing of an experience for how are you living your life? How are you living your life pre-COVID? But how are you living your life now in this pandemic that has created a crisis that we've had before? We've had wars, we've had drought, we've had dust bowls, we've had pestilence. We will get through this and something else will come upon us. We don't know. But there's also a lot of good going on in the world. And if you can make yourself have vulnerability where you learn new things, maybe don't watch the news so much, find the positive quotes that come on Facebook, subscribe to some like Eckhart Tolle and some of those things you can find. I think that's the whole purpose of my course and my book is for people to find somebody at the right time and the right place and the right person to get emotionally naked with. You don't want to get naked everywhere any more than you would like to shed your clothes anywhere. So it's that metaphor that feels like you're bearing your soul.
We have an interesting comment here, and then I also have a question too, or question rather. Vinitha shares, if you take a calculated risk, how does that give power to us to be vulnerable? We are again going back to analyzing a situation before exercising the choice of vulnerability.
Well, I think calculated risk means you're thinking of what could happen, even though you don't know. So you're thinking of some logical blockages or something. You may be wrong, But if you've got something to compare it to, like somebody else that did this, so let's say moving to another country. If you read up on other people who have moved there and what kind of things should you know before you get there, that's a calculated risk because you calculated what some of the obstacles might be.
Yeah, that's a good point. What had come up for me and just kind of reflecting where I've had moments of pretty courageous vulnerability.
Yeah.
So, and Brene Brown talks about it, of course, so when she studies, shame, humiliation, I've only ever had one experience, and it was tied to the experience that I shared with everybody, where I actually, um, in my mind, right, of course, um, experienced what I would consider at that time a sense of extreme humiliation.
Mm,
Um, and it felt as though there was a very public, like almost attack on my personal brand. And I am a recovering people pleaser. Like I self-proclaimed myself through my survival strategies in my younger years. Like I was a chameleon. I could be whatever anybody wanted without you even noticing I was there. That's how good I could adjust myself to be whatever I thought people wanted me to be. And to be able to shift out of that was a huge accomplishment for me. So then when this experience had happened and I felt the sense of humiliation just by what people had developed in their mind about me, never mind that it wasn't true or whatever the case was, but so blah 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 up until my point is, as coaches, when we're talking, we learn these competencies, we're using them with ourselves and using them with our clients. The path to mastery is, personal mastery and understanding how we work. I believe we can help others. And when I think about somebody who's tasking themselves with creating patterns of vulnerability, literally wiring themselves for that. And let's just say in a moment of vulnerability, they stretch themselves, have a very severe negative experience,
mhm.
that might create some energy in the body, right? What would be something, just in generally, what your thoughts are on that topic? But I'm also thinking of when we're trying to create these new neural pathways, when we're trying to anchor the good parts of this, when we're trying to anchor how we're going to continue to choose vulnerability and stretch beyond a moment, how do we frame that? What's the experience maybe one might want to have when they push for vulnerability and they fall flat on their face with a large audience or whatever it is? How can we help people be a little bit more of a vulnerability Gumby, if you will?
Gumby, I like that. Well, I think people who get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Um, One of the things I define myself as a disruptor. Um, I don't go around disrupting things, but it's like if things don't turn out like you'd like it to, well then what do you learn? What did the disturbance, the disruption do? You talk about falling flat in front of 1,000 people. Oh man, well, I mean, if that's a play you're doing or a speech you're giving, I think the people that have survived that and thrive from it are just in the moment say, oh man, am I falling flat or what? And just be yourself and go on and talk and be who you are rather than what you wanted to be. Now that, it takes some practice, but you're not going to die because you fell flat in some, like if you tried improvisational theater, which a lot of coaches do to wake up their intuition. Some are good at it, some are not, but you still learn for trusting the moment, trust the process. There's a quote from the I Ching that I have. I'll just read it. I don't have it on the slide, but it is only when we have the courage to face things as they are without any self-deception or illusion that a light will develop out of events by which the path to success may be recognized. Let me say that again. It is only when we have the courage to face things as they are without any self-deception or illusion that a light will develop out of events by which the path to success may be recognized. That leads to a quote that I say in my book. In coaching, you know how we talk about energy drainers or people finding out what are the things you're tolerating that drain you of energy you're putting up with. And I sometimes say there could be a distinction or a combination of the process of elimination leads to the process of illumination. So if the process of elimination, maybe it's more important to have the process of illumination. What can you shine a light on that will give you the information for moving forward in a life well lived? Yeah, there's some things you want to eliminate, but some things we don't have power over. We only have power over ourselves.
That quote is phenomenal. I need to find that quote. I think that's one of those ones I need to put on my bathroom mirror. I don't know if you have those things. You just got to pop in everywhere. Oh, and Dr. Pat, make sure you have it to all panelists and attendees, and that way everybody will be able to see all that good stuff that you're sharing. There was another question here, which is kind of funny. I think we kind of touched on this a little bit, but how can I tell the difference between courageous vulnerability and being stupid?
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Well, sometimes we don't know we might have been stupid until after the fact, but you're not really stupid. You know, you made a decision, you made choices, you did it with the best information at hand. If I look back at some choices I made in my life, I go, man, that was kind of stupid. But look at what happened after that. Look at the path still happened. You know, I mean, I would not want to judge myself as being stupid. It's like, I'm human. I can't predict the future. I made a choice. This is what happened. And then next time, maybe I'll make it with a little bit more insight.
Love that. Let me see if there's anything else that I missed in chat. It got busy for a second. 3 discoveries.
I'll tell you another quote this is brief, but I didn't put it in here. But if you know about Carol Dweck's work on growth mindset, most of you maybe have heard of growth versus, what's the opposite of that she talks about? Growth versus, well, if you have the mindset of wanting to grow, wanting to learn, that's what she calls a growth mindset. Mindset is causative, she says. Love challenges. Be intrigued by mistakes. Enjoy effort and keep on learning. Love challenges, or you could say embrace challenges. Be intrigued by mistakes. Enjoy the effort and keep on learning. We only learn what we learn while we learn it, and then act on it.
Oh, interesting. Opposite of a growth mindset, fixed mindset. There we go.
The opposite of growth mindset is fixed mindset. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yes, that's awesome. Let me see. There was, oh, here we go. How do you suggest that we can help others to zoom out from their perspectives at this level?
To zoom out. I'm trying to think. I don't know what that means. Help others zoom out their perspective to this level.
For me, I kind of use that. Like I always, when I'm trying to shift myself out of the story, right? I'm down here in the details, and I zoom out, right? I go my 10,000 foot view, so I could actually see what is, right, instead of in the minutia of it. So that's what I kind of think of with the zoom out.
Well, I'll tell you even a more practical thing that I've done for years as a therapist and as a coach is when people are going into a fear perceived situation or scary situation or uncomfortable situation. Let's say somebody's going back to a family reunion that they always have struggles with, the uncle that drinks or the brother that gets on their case or whatever. That's just one situation. I would urge them, if they're going to go, to imagine themselves being outside themselves, just watching the show. So pretend like you're outside yourself, grab a bag of popcorn and just be curious of who says what. Is it always the same? So that you're detached by one level. That's kind of like zooming out a little bit. And you can actually survive a tension creative space if you're not attached to it. You're not attacked. You're not taking it personally. You're like outside yourself, just watching. Oh, that's interesting. That's the same thing that happened last year. Or that person still has an argument with this, or you can choose not to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I think that even comes back to what my question was earlier about, staying that one level out of being the observer, right? Not being attached to what's taking place in the moment, or being attached even to the decision. And I think
Exactly.
that that's something, when I think about, moments of choosing vulnerability. I mean, these things can be in an instant, or you could be sitting there pondering your thoughts and nobody would be the wiser that you've been contemplating, am I going to take this one step forward? You've been thinking about that for half the day. Um,
Exactly.
but detaching, that's something that I really want to think about after this, is detaching, remaining detached from the choice, to be able to make a choice in a powerful state and be detached from it and the outcome.
Yeah, from to trust, goes back to trust the process. You go, oh, this isn't
Mhm.
what I expected, but what am I learning? What am I doing? How am I thriving? Now, this is what I go back to. None of this should be done alone. You need to have that trusted other or a few compatriots that you can share what you're doing or share your results. Or, I mean, we're relationship beings. So if you're not in a relationship that supports you, then with a coach or a few trusted colleagues, that's all you need. That's all
Mhm.
you need. I think that's why coaching actually popped up on the spectrum, because if psychotherapy had been around for 100 years, it obviously wasn't doing the job. It's people felt they had to be broken to go see a psychotherapist, and most of the rest of the country didn't even have so-called psychotherapy. So a coach became that collegial partner, egalitarian. There's not that doctor-patient relationship where I get paid for asking questions I don't know the answer to, because we're both exploring what my client wants to learn to be who they are, to get what they think they want. And
Mhm.
eventually, they may not really want what they thought they wanted. Marsha Reynolds just wrote a book called Coach the Person, Not the Problem. And that's the mark of transformational coaching, is that, all right, you say you want to do this, have this. Now let's focus on, who are you now? What needs to happen for that to occur? What changes are you going to make? What have you thought about in preparing yourself for creating that future that you're desiring? If it's a compelling future, it'll pull you toward it. So if you envision what you really want, yes, the law of attraction can work if you get clear what I want, where I want it, how I want it. It's compelling enough that you'll then make steps toward it rather than be stuck in the present or stuck in the past.
Ooh, this is a good comment. Nita always gives. We have a couple regulars at our webinars that are just always just bringing such good stuff. Anita is one of my faves. Um, it's like we're always hungry for the want of food, or want to attach ourselves to others, to be with others, to use food as a medium. So interesting. So more hunger for food. It may be hunger for love. It may be hunger for care. So that's interesting. I think about the courageous vulnerabilities. The other thing that comes up just from looking at this and what you were saying is, how do we, leveraging vulnerability, leveraging that, tapping into the courage to meet our basic needs, the basic needs as a human being. And so when I think about, like, using food, for example, and meeting your need for, love and connection, how can we use vulnerability? I mean, knowing that the pot of gold at the end of this rainbow is always going to be there for us when we choose it, you know, just having that mindset is probably a good start. When you look at vulnerability, can you be excited about the uncomfortable goosebumps that you get in that pit in your stomach? Can you start to embrace the pit in your stomach as, the dinner bell, right before you feast, kind of thing? So
Yeah. And then you'll have
I don't
those
know.
moments, you'll have those moments of calmness, being, oh man, I'm in a good place. Look at this career I created, or this life I created, or this relationship I've got. You have moments of fear and uncomfortable and vulnerability, but you also get to enjoy what's occurred. Here's a thought. This goes way back to my early training and coaching with Thomas Leonard, who started Coach University and was the founder of the ICF. He used to do an exercise on needs that he called needs versus wants versus values. But if you think about certain needs you have, if my yard outside, which still has green grass for a couple more weeks, needs water, right? But I have an automatic sprinkler system that came on every third day and watered it, so the grass didn't look like it needed water. It was getting its needs met through an automatic sprinkler system. What automatic sprinkler systems can we create in our own life? If we have a need for love, if we have a need for companionship, if we have a need for fill in the blank, usually you find the right kind of people or systems that can fill that need for you. That you need to have an automatic sprinkler system, metaphorically, that's filling the need so that you don't have a deepening want. You find a way to have that want or need filled on a more regular basis. I know you're thinking, your eyes are looking up there.
I am. I'm an up thinker. When my brain will start tingling and I'm just like, oh, okay. And I'm picking it apart in my mind and I'm moving things around. Let me see if there's anything else in the chat. Now we're talking about breakfast, and I'm not gonna lie, friends, I am on 2 pieces of toast and a cup of coffee. So all of this delicious cuisine talk is definitely sending me to the kitchen.
Yeah, me too. I've got a half an hour before my next call, and then I'm going out to play golf, y'all. So that's what I'm doing for fun today. So.
Oh, Dr. Pat, you're making my heart ache. I'm hoping to get one more round of golf in before we're completely done, but it's currently 34 degrees in this part of Wisconsin.
Yeah, but it's going to be 73 here. It's going to be 73 here today and 35 Monday. So there you go, 40-degree shift.
Ew. There we go. Yeah, good opportunities to stretch.
Yeah.
And jump into all that discomfort.
Some people are logging off. We still have 14 people here. I thank you all for coming and for this conversation that we had in real time and through dialogue. If anybody, wants to write me, it's just doccoach, DOCCOACH at me.com, me.com. And I do have a LinkedIn profile. I think my Facebook profile is full. I don't care much for Facebook these days, but LinkedIn, and then check out the consciouslivingmastery.com. If you have any questions about that, you can write my team. You can try a free module, and hope to see you in class.
Awesome. If there are any other questions, feel free to drop them in. Otherwise, we'll wrap up a little early, give you a little bit more time for breakfast, among other things.
Or dinner. Or
dinner or lunch or brunch or whatever you're needing. This was good. So many good reminders in this. I think, of course, this is the right audience, right? We're all, I think, pretty growth oriented individuals. Yes. We're all about contribution and being in contribution. And I think if we continue to exercise more vulnerability, for one, not only is it creating more self-awareness for ourselves, right, like more power for ourselves. Like I have absolutely just continued to feel, not feel like a much more powerful being, but feel the powerful being that I already am, by continuing to stretch myself and continuing to face that discomfort. So I think, with these lessons, continuing to do that, it's going to make us better coaches, but it's going to make us better human beings.
Yes.
To be able to face the vulnerability, I think just for me personally, and I'm a very loving, compassionate person already, but the more I've stretched myself and felt those areas of discomfort and reflected on the thoughts that come up for me in those moments, I am a much more understanding, compassionate person by being with my experiences, that then I can look at my fellow man, especially the ones who, my 4-year-old language popped up. I talk to my son a lot, and I say to him that if we see somebody who's, being naughty or giving owies, like only owies make more owies. So if somebody's given owies, that means they need more kindness. And so we need to make sure that we're kind. And so I think about that. In some cases, you might need to be a little more vulnerable with somebody who's got a little more thorns on the outside than you're
Yeah.
used to. And so just practicing these concepts of vulnerability, like taking these quotes and everything that you've shared, will only make us better human beings, which is so important right now.
And we
It's important
also,
every single day.
yes, thank you, Nessa. And we also are modeling this in our coaching. I mean, we want to be an example, a model. We want to communicate in a way that helps our clients become more of who they can be, because that's what we're doing. And then let that ripple effect move on to more people living a more purposeful life. Maybe there'll be an undercurrent of change and we'll have a new renaissance in this world, like happened after the Dark Ages. Maybe it's time for that.
Yes.
They're saying, people are saying you have a halo behind you, Nessa. You've got with the globe, you've got a halo with that spaceship Earth picture you've got there.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you. I threw it on. I threw it on this morning. It felt right with this conversation.
Yeah, great.
Awesome. Thank you
And
so
I
much,
and I
everybody.
and if
Yes.
you need the slides or something that you want to have people get, I know you're going to have recorded of this, but do you want me
Yes.
to send you the PowerPoints in case somebody asks for it, or should I send them
Yeah,
to Mag?
typically, yeah, definitely. I'd probably say we'll send them to Magda and the team.
Okay,
We like to have those resources available. A number of our guests really like to review content and review the slides and keep some of that information. So absolutely, I know that would be appreciated.
will do. Well,
Um,
thank you for your co-facilitation here. It was really fun. I'm glad we
yes.
had a group of 15 to 20 people hang around, and we had some great lessons that I learned from the quotes and the comments. So this is awesome.
Yeah, this was really, really good and so needed. So I'm going to give you a little extra time back so you can get a nice meal and not end up with the hiccups like I usually do when I eat far too quickly than I should. So I will leave you with that, Dr. Pat, and everybody. Thank you so much for being here. This was wonderful. Again, a phenomenal way. I mean, what a great reminder to start a week with, to start a
Yeah.
day with. This is, granted, not everybody's starting their day right now, but
Yes.
selfishly, I'm so excited to have started my day with you and everybody else.
Thank you,
So
Nessa.
thank you so much, everybody. Of course, join us again for a couple more sessions as we wrap up Awake, Aware, Rise this week. Be well, and we'll see you again soon.
Okay. Bye all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.